Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of this land that was never ceded, never surrendered, always was and always will be Wiradjuri land. I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge Annette and Stuart Baker and the rest of the team at the Survivors of Suicide and Friends for putting, honestly, this awesome event on. Mental ill health and suicide are amongst the biggest sleeper issues of our time. Conversations like those that we're having over these next few days are critical if we are going to work towards a society where people feel connected, loved and safe. Events such as a winter solstice create that very culture, and a gathering like this is so much larger than the sum of its parts. Now, I feel really flattered having been asked to speak here tonight, having seen the calibre of past speakers and those here talking tonight. You know, I will say it does feel a little daunting, but I come here with no professional qualifications, and I am not an expert in any real sense of the word and any stretch of the imagination. Like everyone else here, I have been touched by suicide. I've lost friends close to me and family. From time to time, I have people who reach out to me, usually LGBTIQ people, because they are having a really dark time and they're in a dark place and they're questioning where they fit in the world. So in that regard, I guess, I do have some lived experiences that informs how I feel, and that's what I'm going to share with you tonight. We know that gay youth have the highest rates of suicide of any group in Australia. We know that LGBTIQ Australians attempt suicide at a staggering 14 times the rate of their straight peers. We know that the average age of the first suicide attempt for a gay person is 16. This makes the LGBTIQ community, my community, one of the most at-risk groups. It is also a community that deserves the right to feel connected, loved and safe. Now, last year we had the same-sex marriage postal survey, that bloody plebiscite, and I've already checked. The electorate of Farrer returned a yes vote, so I know I'm in a safe place. But it was a bruising time for the LGBTIQ community and for the nation as a whole. Every time I was asked, I pointed out that the survey was harming people and that it was unnecessary. And marriage equality was a victory, but it came at a cost. It came at a cost to me personally, it came at a cost to the gay community, and it came at a cost to this nation as a whole. The sad part of the whole process was that it was so unnecessary. The sadder part still was that during the postal survey campaign, in spite of all the positive polling in favour of a yes vote, I can promise you that every single gay member of the community and their straight allies feared the worst would happen. They feared that the result would be a no vote. During the survey campaign, Lifeline saw a steep spike in people calling it suicide prevention line. Reach Out said that they had a 20% increase in the number of gay people accessing its support services. Still, marriage equality was achieved, and it was an achievement that saved lives and is saving lives. In the US, after marriage equality was introduced, they saw close to a 10% decrease in the suicide attempts by members of the LGBTIQ community. We can only hope we see the same here. But marriage equality is not the end of the road. I worry about my community as we face the next frontiers. It is scary to think that in 2018, something as abhorrent and crazy as gay conversion therapy can find itself creeping back into the headlines. Conversion therapy is a discredited pseudoscience that starts with the premise that being gay is a mental disorder. It also suggests that through spiritual or psychological support, homosexuality can be reversed. The idea of pray away the gay is a light-hearted way of thinking about it, but I can promise you there is nothing light-hearted about conversion therapy. Now, the ACT, Victorian, Western Australian governments have all made moves to ban this practice. The New South Wales opposition has a position banning conversion therapies for under 18s, but even though the federal government doesn't fund conversion therapy, thankfully, when given the opportunity earlier this year, our Health Minister, Greg Hunt, didn't condemn the practice either. What's even scarier was the news that earlier this year, a branch of the Victorian Young Liberals voted to give parents access to anti-gay and anti-trans conversion therapy. That's the Young Liberals this year. Now, this didn't get off the ground, but it is terrifying that this could even become a part of the political debate less than a year after we achieved marriage equality. This sends such a damning message to every young LGBTQ young person. Achieving marriage equality is great, but it is not the last hurdle. I know I'm in this fight for the long haul, and I know that the LGBTIQ community is going to keep fighting the next fight. We have to. We know that the experience of we know that the experience of discrimination and isolation damages the mental health of LGBTIQ people. We know that even the fear of discrimination and isolation can lead to thoughts of suicide. The gay rights movement marches on, and the more allies that we have in this fight, the fewer lives we will lose. As a society, we have come pretty far, but as a society, we need to go a lot further. And surely the answer is to start young. Education is the key. Education is the answer. Education, education, education. We know that in a classroom of 30 children, it will include 3 children who are same-sex attracted, 1 to 2 children who are transgender, and more likely than not, 1 child who is intersex. Now, when you combine the high numbers of LGBTIQ children in our schools with the high levels of homophobic bullying happening there, and teachers who, even though they are well-meaning, have not been given the strategies and the training to deal with that bullying, we see a big issue in our education system. Sometimes governments get it right. Here on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, we see 2 states that have made an effort. In 2010, the former New South Wales Labor government established the Proud Schools program. It ran in a small number of schools until 2013. Also in 2010, the Victorian government started the Safe Schools program. It is still supported and funded by the Andrews government. The federal government funded Safe Schools in 2013. Sadly, after pressure from the religious right, they cut funding in 2016. What we have now is a patchy approach where some states and territories have proactive programs that support our youth. They teach diversity and acceptance and make schools safe and inclusive. Unfortunately, we have other states that have reactive, nebulous anti-bullying programs, where in these programs gay youth are left as a bullet point or a simple footnote. Now, a school system should tackle bullying. I think we can all agree on that here. But we know that 30% of transgender youth have attempted suicide. And not all of these attempts are a result of bullying. There is the feeling of difference, isolation, and the fear of never finding love. These have huge, huge impacts on young transgender kids. 3 in 10 of these young people have attempted suicide. I would say to you, 1 is too many. 1 is too many. I said before that education is the key. Our schools need to do more than just stop bullying. They need to be places where diversity is recognised, taught and celebrated. They need to be places where our gay youth are made to feel safe. Now, while I am an advocate of the Safe Schools program, I'm not saying that is the be-all and end-all. But if not safe schools, then what? I remain open to see what the government in New South Wales decides in the long term. But we can't accept the levels of suicidal thought that we currently see. We can't accept even one more life lost because of homophobia or because a young person doesn't know where they fit in. Now, I started this talk talking about the need to create a community where people feel connected, loved and safe. Yet in the LGBTIQ community, we see a group at risk. Whether it be the fact that the average age of a first-time suicide attempt for a gay kid is 16, or the fact that 3 in 10 transgender people have attempted suicide. As a community, we are a big part of the solution. We can take a stand against homophobia. We can be that community that voted for marriage equality. We can make our schools places where kids, gay kids, are cared for and feel safe. And we can actively support every member of our society. Then and only then can we say that we have done all that we can. And let's face it, people, all that we can do is really quite a lot. Thank you for listening to me.